opportunities at the same time. Over the next course of the next 1 hour, this panel will explore the strategies that a lot of mums who are joining us as panelists have used for managing their work-life balance, and of course also balancing societal pressures, and at the same time enabling growth for themselves professionally. Um, I'm Ojal Kulkarni, mom to 7-month-old twin boys, and I will be moderating this panel. I'm currently an independent consultant now. I previously led ecom for Britannia. I stepped down post-pregnancy. I'm joined by 4 powerhouse moms on today's panel. Let's begin with Kanchan. Kanchan Samtani is a mom to twin teens. She's currently also the MD and senior partner at BCG, a very senior person in the world of consulting. Kanchan is also the most experienced mom right now on today's panel.
Looks like it.
She has beautifully juggled her roles as the boss, both within and outside of the house. Welcome, Kanchan. Thank you for being on the panel today.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Pankhuri, who is a mom to 1-year-old twins and a popular household name for her portrayal of Razia Sultan in Razia Sultan and Draupadi in Suryaputra Karn. She will be resuming work soon after her maternity break, and we can't wait to see you on screen again. Happy to have you here, Pankhuri.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We also have Harsha here, who is the owner of multiple businesses and mom to 1-year-old twins. Unlike the rest of us, she barely had any time to get comfortable at home with motherhood. She had a very early return to work and resumed work right after the 7th day of welcoming her babies. We can't wait to hear more about, how your journey has been adapting into work and, continuing to do such a fabulous job. Welcome, Heena. Welcome, Harsha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming to Ruchika, who all of us here are familiar with. Ruchika is the founder of TwinsTribe and mama to 6-year-old twins. She quit her thriving corporate role and founded a company called TwinsTribe from the ground up. We are all witness to the incredible community that she's currently building, and most of us are also her clients and are currently using a lot of TwinsTribe's products, which has definitely, made life easy for us as twin parents. Happy to have you here, Ruchika, and thank you for putting this together.
Thank you, and so excited to have you all here.
Amazing. Coming to Heena. Heena is a mom to 4-year-old twins, and she was previously from the world of finance, but chose to tread the path less taken. Through her journey of motherhood, she learned and equipped herself with sleep training, and later on found it to be a gap in the market. She's now a trained sleep consultant and a founder of A to Z Mom.
Thank you so much for having me.
Super. So let's just dive into the panel discussion. And any of you, if you all have any questions, please drop it in the chats and we will circle back. So coming to Kanchan, we'd like to start with you. We would love to know, if you could share your journey in the demanding world of consulting, and how did you balance it whilst being a twin mom?
It's been a long time. I think just for everyone's context, I had my twins now 15 years ago. I have twin girls. So we've gone through, all the cycles of babies, toddlers, school-going kids, started to stress about stuff. And now, of course, I have 15-year-olds who are constantly telling me in 3 years we are gone, and mom, what are you going to do?
Oh my God.
So that's, I think so I've gone through the whole life cycle. I think if I look back on the early years, I made some compromises at the time. And Ruchika, you were in BCG at the time. You'll remember some of this. I took about a year off. Actually, I was forced to take a year off. I had a very complex pregnancy. I couldn't be at work through most of the time. And then I took about 6-7 months off, actually, after the kids were born. But by then I was itching to get back, because between the treatments and the complex pregnancy and then the 6 months of maternity leave, it had been, very long, actually, since I had been kind of out. I went back to work. I worked at 50-60% for the next couple of years. I think my twins were a little over 2 years old when I made partner in the firm. And at that point, I decided to go back up to full capacity. I've had my parents locally in the city, but I've also had, I think, I think most careers are complex, but consulting also comes with the additional complexity of constant travel. So I think that honestly was the moment of truth for me when the kids were young. But that's when my mother really stepped in. So I think every time I traveled, she would come and spend the night in my house, and that's how I could do it. But the rest of the time, to be honest with you, I just had so much paid help, so much. Like there was a time when the kids were born, when I was going back to work, they were 6 months old. I had three Japan maids for the two of them because I said, hey, one is on leave, I need the third as a buffer. And I've kind of maintained that up until now. Of course, now the girls don't need, anyone, and in fact, they get very upset if there's anyone around. But I've kind of maintained that all through the years, and that's, I think, one piece of advice, at least from me, which has really worked for me, to just get reliable help, overpay them, keep extra help, and just, it's an investment, right? I mean, if I think about, if I had scrounged on the 20-30K a month, then I wouldn't have the career that I have now. So it's that's, I think, just one practical thing which really worked for me in the early years. I think the other thing, honestly, which worked for me was from the time that the kids were 5-6 years old. I've been talking to them a lot. And not just talking to them, I think they are observant themselves. I think there was a time when one of my daughters, who was 5 or 6 at the time, and said, hey, Mama, everyone's moms come to the bus stop to pick them up. You don't come. What's the deal with that? Like, when are you going to come to the bus stop in the afternoon? And I said, no, I'm not going to come to the bus stop in the afternoon. And here's why. And we talked about it. And I'll share this personal thing. I think the kids were 9-10 years old when one of them came up to me and said, I'm so proud that you've done what you've done, while some of the other kids talk about their moms, and they talk about, of course, their moms are around, and that's nice and whatever. I go to Google, type your name, and then I show off what my mom has done. And I thought that made it all very, very real for me. So yes, there were a few years in between where you constantly keep second guessing yourself. But I think the kids are actually very mature, very understanding. And if you talk to them and they observe the world, and I think there's a point at which they come back and actually they're really proud of you.
That's amazing to hear. Wow, great. Pankhuri, coming to you, we hear that you're making your big comeback, post the break that you've taken. Is there anything specific you're doing to go back into work and, settle, keep things at home while also resuming your career?
So just to give like context, when I got pregnant, I was actually doing a show. So, and especially like in acting, it means like you are at work around like for 16 hours a day. So for example, I would leave at 7 in the morning because obviously Mumbai and distances. Our set was in Naigaon, so it was about 1.5 hour commute one way. And so yeah, leaving at 7 in the morning, coming back home at 12 at night. And amidst that, I found that, I'm pregnant. And obviously there was a slight complication. And so my doctor, and that's when I got my first scan and I figured out, okay, there are twins. I'm not just pregnant, I'm pregnant with twins. And that's when my doctor said that, I can't really allow you to continue working. And all the show that I was doing was a very, I was playing a cop, and that to an AI cop. So there was a lot of action involved and running and stuff like that in the first trimester. So that was just like, he's like, I can't allow you to do all that. And so I had to leave that. As an actor, obviously, first you want to get pregnant, you want to have babies, but an actor's life is such that when you're working, you just want to just continue working, and you just can't leave it. I mean, you're just so passionate about it. I know everybody is. So I had to leave it then. So it was almost like a year, like during my entire pregnancy, I couldn't really shoot. So I didn't even take the risk. I mean, there was no second thought about it. So yeah, like once I delivered, I think it was almost like 7, 8, 9 months that I hadn't been working, and that was getting up to me. And I think 1 month postpartum, I think I did my first ad shoot, and I was like, let me just jump at the opportunity and just go there. And obviously, like Kanchan said, a very supportive family helps, supportive husband helps. Obviously, there's help at home. My family isn't here, but my mom was here for 4 to 5 months. My family's in Lucknow, but she was here taking care of the kids, helping me, sort of bring them up, etc. And Gautam's family, my husband's family, is here, so they were always like, they're still always willing to just step up. And so yeah, another thing that I did was, I worked on a little startup of my own, which was a jewelry brand, which I'm still in the process of growing. So yeah, it did take a backseat because once I like 2-3 months postpartum, I was like, okay, I'm just too occupied right now. I can't really give everything. And it was also a little, overwhelming for me, because suddenly from this independent being where you're only supposed to sort of take care of yourself, you are like responsible for two other, little beings, and you just want to do everything possible for them. So I did put it on a back burner. And however, with my acting, I kept taking up jobs and I kept taking up brand collaborations, and I didn't stop that because I don't think I had the capacity to do that. But now that they are 1 year old, and I've finally found my footing, and there's family whenever. So yeah, I'm putting all my mind back into my jewelry business, and it's just like we've just shot for a collection and we're just launching and stuff like that's happening. And yeah, it feels good to be back, as long as long term acting work is concerned. I'm I'm still a little unsure, because it just means that I'm gone for the entire day, and I don't know how okay I am with that. Like I'd be glad to be working, but at the same time, I would be looking at like shorter formats for now. Once they start their school, obviously they're in their phase where they're starting their preschools, pre-play schools and stuff. So many things are there now. You just keep
Yeah.
getting educated. Like, oh, there's a pre-play school also now for the toddlers. I'm like, come on. And so yeah, so all those things. And I mean, these phases are also really exciting, and I'm a pretty hands-on mom that way. Like, I want to be a part of everything that, because they're learning so quickly now. They're absorbing everything so quickly, and I want to be very mindful about, what their environment is and where they are. So yeah, so I'm taking up small pockets of work, wherein I mean, that's what I'm aiming to do, like, like a short format, like ads and brand collaborations, and web maybe. But television, although I really am craving to go back to it, i I will do it when I get the best opportunity, and then I will sort of think about that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think that makes sense given that you're just getting back into it. So juggling will make
Correct.
sense.
Correct.
Super, super. Ruchika, coming to you first off, congratulations to you and Ritika on being awarded as the Ideator of the Year and on the Your Story coverage. I think we're all super happy that this is happening.
Congratulations.
Twin moms are like, okay, we're not just moms, there is like more to it. And I feel like a community like TwinsTribe is definitely sort of garnering the much needed support, recognition that, as twin moms we need. Um, so tell us, Ruchika, how was your journey, the shift from being in a corporate role to then being a twin mom and then founding this amazing community called TwinsTribe?
Okay, so thank you first of all. And I think for me, the transition happened in stages. I did experiment and try to give a chance to corporate life. So, like Kanchan, I was also on a break for a long time. I came back in part-time capacity. I did resume full-time into my consulting role, and then I realized that, and for me, it was very clear. I was very uneasy about going back to that life, but it was an experiment, so I was very clear about it. I did that and I realized that, I cannot sort of continue. I cannot travel the way I used to. And I cannot take that stress. So then I shifted to a corporate role as a head of strategy in one of the FMCG firms. And I did it for 2.5 years. At that time, COVID struck. And, I got used to working at home, spending more time with my kids. And as soon as COVID got over and it was time to go back to office, I felt stressed. The other thing was that, there is just so much mental load if you are in a senior role. You want to give your best in office, you want to do your best at home. There's your social life, your personal aspirations. There is just so much of it. And I think at some point in time, started feeling overwhelmed. I felt like I was on a treadmill, which I think all of us will resonate with it. So I, at that point in time, started thinking about that I need a break. But that decision of how long that break needs to be and what format, I think it's a very tricky one because I think two factors were playing on our minds. One is that obviously your family income goes to half. You are addicted to the paycheck, right? So it's not as if it would have made a material difference to our lives, but still, I mean, that was a big factor. And second, everyone says, and you also feel that you have worked so hard to get here. How can you just leave it all? So these were the two factors which were sort of stopping me. But at some point in time, I said that no, I want to take a break. I want to give this a chance. And when the break, maybe for some time, it's a like for a few months, it's a break. But after that, I want to go back to something. And this time, when I start working, one, I want, if I'm spending so many hours away from my kids, I want to do it on something that I feel passionate about. Okay. I feel at some point in time, the work that I was doing in my corporate career, I did not really care about uh, that thing, right? So I said that this time I'm going to do something which I feel passionate about. Then it will at least make it worth it. And second, I'm going to do it on my own terms. So thankfully, my co-founder Nikita is someone that I am comfortable being like unabashedly authentic with. So when we are talking, sometimes we can tell each other that, right now I'm feeding my kids. Can I talk to you later? I've come to pick them up from school. So we can be absolutely authentic with each other. We can decide our work schedule. There is something in the morning, we can do it at night. So we have complete flexibility. We are completely boss. And the best part is that this time I said that I want to involve my kids. So there are meetings. It can be a vendor meeting, it can be a customer meeting in which the kids go with me. And so this is, how we have built it so that it's not, this is the boundary between work and life is not so separate anymore. And our kids are very much a part of this entire journey. And now that makes me happy. And I feel, this time the stress is very positive.
That's great. It's amazing how the entire journey that you've had with motherhood completely inspired your career ahead, right? And that now is also inspiring so many of us. Um, Super. Hina, coming to you. Very interesting career switch. Something like finance, and then now you're a very successful child sleep consultant. So let us know, we would love to hear your journey from being a finance professional to becoming a child sleep consultant.
Yeah, so I mean, similar to I think all of us, right? You sort of need to find your footing in this whole new role that you have as a mom, especially as a twin mom. So for me, it's a little bit, I mean, there's like a little gap in between the finance and the, sleep consulting role that I'm doing right now. So I actually moved to India. I quit my financial consultant job in Chicago, moved to India about 11 years ago. And I had this passion for doing something of my own, right? I wanted to always have my own startup, start something of my own. So I actually started my own snack business, if you will, where I had a factory in Chambord. I was exporting to about 15 odd different countries, right? And then a lot of twin pregnancies do become a little bit complicated, right, at some point or the other. So I had this factory, which was like a baby of mine, and I got pregnant, and it was a very, very complicated pregnancy. And then I was put on bed rest. I was in the hospital for about 3 or 4 months. So at that point, it was a constant tussle between, okay, I need to be, resting and like give this pregnancy a chance, obviously, because you want the best outcome. But then you also have your own business and your employees that are sort of depending on you. And then soon after my boys were born, they were preemies, COVID hit. So COVID impacted, my business very, very significantly, right? Because it affected freight rates, exports completely shut down, borders shut down, which was what my business was running on. So, but it also came with the positive sides for me. I know COVID was really tough for a lot of families, and I recognize that, but it was positive in the sense that I got to spend so much time with my kids, right? My husband was able to be home. Fortunately, my parents don't live here, but my mom left everything when I was sick and I was in the hospital, and she moved here. So it was really nice to have that sort of support and, spend so much time with these two little human beings that were at home. And then exactly like what Ruchika said, at the end of COVID, when people started going back to work, I had all of this time with my boys that going back to work just seemed like a very daunting process. So I was kind of sort of dwindling with, going through the roller coaster journey of sleep of my own kids. Obviously did a lot of research, self-learned a lot of things, and my kids were sleeping beautifully by 6 months, right? Also at the same time, a lot of my friends were pregnant who were delivered, so they were really inspired by, okay, you have two boys and now they're sleeping through the night, like what the hell is going on, what is your secret? So I started helping them out just as a nice thing to do. And then suddenly I started finding that people who I didn't know would reach out to me and be like, hey, can you please guide us on our kids' sleep, right? So recognizing that there's a gap in the market, also feeling really, at some level, it gave me a lot of joy when I was able to successfully help a family and bring them, not just for the parents, but also for the child, because your children thrive when they get good sleep, right? They're able to regulate emotionally a lot better than if they're sleep deprived, and immunity is better, growth hormones, I mean, all of that good stuff, right? So I recognize that there's a gap in the market, and then obviously educated myself. So I attended, got a certification from a university in the US and started doing this. So it was a very organic flow into this. I don't think I sought this career out. I think it sought me out, and I realized how much I enjoyed it. So yeah.
Wow. And cut now, how many years has it been since you started? 4 years?
Yeah, it's been about 4 years.
So this
Yeah.
takes all of your time professionally.
It does. It does. Now, I would say for the first 2 years, I was doing, a little bit of this, and then I also had my own startup, and then this just sort of took off, right? Word of mouth, I think, is your best, way to grow any business, and I've been quite fortunate that way. And then also, luckily, was able to sell my other business off as of last year. So I'm focusing on this now 100%.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's super.
Mhm.
I'll give you a call soon. I need help.
Happy to help.
Okay, super. Hi, Harsha, coming to you. You returned to work just 7 days after giving birth to twins, which is unbelievable. I can't imagine doing it. What drove that decision, and what support systems did you rely on, during this entire period?
Hi everyone. Actually, the thing is, during the pregnancy, in my second month onwards, doctor put me on full bed rest. So it was very clear to me that I can't join work like this. So and also there is a gap. My husband is visually impaired, so it is very visually clear to me that I need to handle everything with babies, with pregnancy, and with husband, family, and everything. I need to do it. So this was the major call when I was in my second month. Doctor put me on bed rest. Then I checked on 1 week. There was lot of difference that I can do. I cannot go to office. I cannot move in the house and many other things. So my husband said, "Do your rest, whatever you want to do from your bed, you can do everything." Then I suggested him that first of all, I make sure to monitor every area of the house from cameras and everything like that. And then we used to do same thing for the office also. Every meeting is COVID already had uh, uh, um, COVID already had mentioned us with the Zoom meetings, Google meetings, and all. So that is very easy for us to maintain. And basically, our business is all about online things. So that was very easy for me to manage all the things from there. So I done all the things from my room only. And after the twins, because my due date was in April, but due to some complications, I need to had an elective CS in at the end of the March. That is my financial year closing also. So that was the call. I know I have to join it right after the delivery. So I have my mother and my mother-in-law for the first 10 days, and my sister and my brother. Everyone in the family is so supportive, so supportive. For the first 10 days, I didn't even realize that I am going through a very typical process, babies bonding with the babies and with the twins. So this was the major changing session.
That's amazing. I think very inspiring how you managed to, juggle both of these, and you look like extremely, comfortable right now having done all of this. So super job on that. Um, so coming back to you, Kanchan, apart from, like you mentioned, you spoke to your babies, you let them know that this is what my work demands of me. Apart from sort of communicating it to them directly, how else did you reshape your work-life balance, and how did you get them to adapt, to your long hours? And of course, consulting comes with a lot of commitment, so it's not like a regular call, where you can just casually also just speak to your twins in between. So I'm very curious, how did you do that?
So when they were quite small, actually, I maybe stepping back for a minute, I think until the time I got pregnant and had the kids, I was like most people, very indisciplined about work. So I would just let it come whenever it came, and didn't think too much about it. I think I realized very quickly that I have to change my own approach. I was not a very planned person. I was not a very structured person, and I think that is something that I have really changed and adapted. And now I've learned it so much, and it's become so ingrained in me that people have started finding me totally inflexible because, I'm like, if it's not on my calendar, don't call me. I'm not going to speak to you, right? So you need to block it on my calendar 3 days in advance, or I'm not going to speak to you. I can't have an unstructured day. And my EA knows that after 6 in the evening, she's not allowed to give a meeting out, no matter what. So and now it's of course been 15 years, but the first couple of years it was a bit chaotic, and then I realized like I cannot have a chaotic life anymore. It's just, if I'm going to do this, it has to be done in a structured way, and it has to be done in a way that other people also then know what to expect from you and what not to expect from you. So in the early years, I worked part-time, and when I worked part-time, I realized very quickly that while I was technically working part-time, I was actually spending the full day at work. So I took some calls. Before the kids started going to school, I decided I would not go into work before noon at all on any day. Even if the kids were busy doing something, had a play date, I would still stay home, and I would only go in at 12, because then I felt like I've been there, I've spent the whole morning with them, and and then if I come back at 7 or 8 in the evening, it's okay, because, and then somebody or the other from the family would step in for a bit. I had cameras all over the house, and I felt a lot more comfortable with that. So I think I constantly kept on making some choices about where to cut it off. I think that's important, right, for all of us, and whether it's Heena, Pankhuri, like, I mean, the amount of work that you decide to do almost has a life of its own, and it can keep expanding unless you decide where you want to cut it off. And I think those are some conscious choices that I made. Now, in my profession, serving clients outside of your home city is a big deal. I actually changed which industries I was serving. I changed which sectors I was working in, just to ensure that I'm not traveling as much. Like, that was a big deal for me. I didn't want to travel. I used to get very stressed when I'm in another city and my kid calls me. It's just, that was the one thing I realized, that I can't cope with it. Like, it would just emotionally totally stress me out. So I made a lot of choices about, not serving a set of clients, not serving a set of sectors. And yes, I took longer to make partner. I took longer to do, the set of things that I could have done in a more competitive way in a shorter period of time. But I think those are very conscious choices that I made, and I continue to make them even today. So no matter how important a meeting is, I don't do it in the evening. My girls are teens now; they need me around, and I'm also a single parent. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that, but we are divorced, and I live full time with the kids. So I mean, it's just not, and there is so much stuff going on now, whether it's chatting about drugs, whether it's chatting about boys, or whatever it is, right? And there's just so many influences on them all the time that I feel like, this is Emotionally, I'm finding this the hardest stage of parenting till now. I now look back and think, and I'm sorry to say this to a group full of women who have younger kids, but I thought it was a cakewalk until they turned 13. After that is when the it just hit. Actually, the time, I think, from the time that they were 4, 5 until the time they were 12, 13 was, I thought, the easiest time. I mean, it's a tough time when they're very small and they need you physically all the time. But I think there's a time at which, when they're 5, 6, 7, whatever, depending on different kids are different, when they start communicating, you can have conversations, you know what they're doing, they're busy with activities. It's a pretty good time actually for a few years. And then, of course, the teen years and then the hormones and all the other complexities hit. So I'm going through that, and I continue to make all the same choices. It's become better now. Of course, I can leave them alone. I don't worry as much about traveling for a day or two anymore. But I do worry if I'm not spending time with them on a sustained basis. Like they really need it.
Right. I think, like you said, it's extremely important to, identify and draw your boundaries, especially if you come from a place where, you're in a corporate structure. And that can only come from when you're super confident in your work. So that shows, and that's amazing. Great. Coming to Pankhuri. So you're someone who's constantly in the public eye. Everything you do, everything you say. How have you managed the expectations of your career and your personal life, especially with such young babies?
So honestly, as a person, that being an actor is just one part of my life, and I've never ever let it consume me ever. Uh, and that's the same with my husband and my family. They just keep us like, I mean, it's just work. Like you're a consultant, I'm an actor, and I think, and that's how I like to keep it, because that just helps me just be the person that I am, and I'm very very rooted in that. Um, so I mean, that's never bothered me so much. Yes, of course, I was a little skeptical about sharing too much too quick, because obviously we're open to a lot of I mean, comments, etc. And I didn't know if I was ready for it. That's why I took my time to even reveal my baby's faces, because I was just not open to because I mean, there are good people, there are bad people. I mean, even if you do great stuff, you get a lot of comments, and that sometimes tends to affect you. So while I'm not very easily moved, but still, it's your babies and you're really sensitive and stuff like that. So that was a call that I was very sure, and my husband, we were very sure that we don't want to put a lot out. Obviously, they do such cute things throughout the time. I mean, the whole time you're just like, oh my god, this is so cute. But then we refrain from just, and I'm a very social media person. I mean, just to say, like, I am before being an actor as well. Like, social media is like my expression platform, etc. But then again, I made a call to not be very out there with the kids, also for to protect them from just the world right now, and from a lot of comments and a lot of views, etc. So I just thought that that's best. And yeah, I think to answer your question, I think uh, I intend to keep it like that also for quite some time, till they decide what they want to do, etc. So yeah.
So I think all of us at some point in life, especially after babies, are so wary of, the evil eye, buri nazar, and all of that. So completely, relate to what you're saying.
I can say I didn't put anything on social media ever myself. Now, of course, they themselves are on social media all the time. So I have no control over that. Until I could control it, I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, I'm dreading the time when, there'll be mobile phones in their hands. Great. All right. Ruchika, coming to you. Shifting from a stable corporate career to entrepreneurship is a very significant decision. How did you overcome the anxiety of leaving, a very successful career, like you said, an income, a very stable paycheck that came in month to month, and jump into doing something like this where you started from scratch?
So I think few things helped me. Two of them external and one of them internal. First thing is that my husband, I think, really gave me that comfort that, we are not going to cut down on anything. I think after, you are used to that paycheck and it becomes an addiction and comfort factor. But however, I think the increasing amount of money, it has diminishing utility, as so, but for you to internalize it, it's very difficult. You have a lot of anxiety around that. So I think my husband really gave me that comfort that that cutting down on income will not lead to any impact. And when I started seeing that, when I left my job in 6 months, we did 3 international holidays with kids. So I think that gave me a lot of comfort. The second thing is, the anxiety of whether I will be able to go back to job and how I will be received. When I actually left my job, for the next few months, every day, somebody or the other will call me, whether it is a job consultant or one of my ex-bosses offering to join them. And then I suddenly, over the next few weeks and months, I pretty much got call from everyone I had worked in the past saying, why don't you join us? What are you doing? So they thought that there was something wrong, but there was nothing wrong. Actually, I was comfortable. I wanted to take a break. This is something, but that gave me a lot of comfort that any day, I am doing an experiment. I'm taking a break and then I'm deciding to start my own firm. But if it does not work out, I will be able to go back to a corporate career. I might miss out on a few years of, salary increase, but I can always go back. So I think getting that confidence, getting a sense of your self-worth is very important. Sometimes, we just underrate ourselves and our capabilities. But if you are good, you should not be worried. You should be able to take your chances and if it doesn't work out, there will always be a fallback option.
I think very well said. Even for someone like me, I've just left, a very, what I would like to call a booming career. And it was a hard decision, but I think right now, keeping, as a mother, keeping your mental sanity in check is the most important, because of course you have the 2 little ones. They are your whole new business now. So yeah, amazing. Heena, very interested to know, as a twin parent and also since you're a child sleep coach, what strategies can twin moms like us adopt to ease their return to work?
Yeah, I think, we've already spoken about this some bit, right? Having a good support system in place sometimes can make such a big difference, right? It could be grandparents, it could be, your spouse, it could be, just relying on hiring help, right? And I think at least this is my, initially I felt like I put so much stress on myself, where I felt the need to be like involved in every single thing that my kids were doing, and having a lot of trouble letting go of some of the things, and constantly badgering myself or feeling guilty about it, right? And I think we need to take that pressure off of ourselves, right? Like basically just change our mindset to understand that, okay, you're not 100% of the time going to be the most involved mother, the most involved person in your career, the most involved spouse, the most involved daughter. You'll have to kind of figure out what is important in that season of your life, right? So that's like, I think number one, just having like the right mindset and understanding and giving yourself a little grace, right? And I think besides that, from like this whole sleep angle, I think really honestly, and I'm not just saying this because I am a child sleep consultant, but truly you cannot believe the 360 that our lives took when we started implementing good sleep hygiene practices for our boys, right? When they were much younger. From being like completely headless chicken, because when you have 2 kids, it's not like a single child where, okay, the child is waking up, the child is sleeping. You're juggling. If these 2 children are not aligned in their schedule, I mean, you're constantly dealing with one child who's awake, one is sleeping, the other one wakes up. So just understanding how important it is to have like a good routine in place, to have a good schedule in place. I'm not even talking about, independent sleep, right? Unfortunately, we have this whole stigma of, okay, sleep training means that my child's going to cry and cry and cry, but that's not necessarily true, right? It's also adopting the good practices. It's adopting, like having a good routine. And I think exactly what Kanchan said, it it taught me to become very disciplined with my own time as well, right? When I'm implementing something for my children, I'm also sort of adopting that practice as a household, right? So I think having that predictability helps. So yeah.
That's amazing. I think, yeah, largely establishing a routine for yourself as well as for the babies. Got it. Um, Super. Harsha, given the circumstances that you're in, what mindset and tools have been the most critical in managing business while also being the primary caregiver?
Actually, I think the main thing is to set a schedule for twins. Scheduling twins is really a tricky thing. Before the babies, we used to do like anytime lunch, dinner, breakfast. Now I know my kids will, as soon as they wake up, they will take breakfast, then mid morning snack, then lunch. So main thing is to schedule them. So I used to make a 14-day plan for my babies. One and give it to my nannies. I have two nannies. One is in 24 hours nanny, and other is the 9 hours. They both, they know if we will not do anything like the mentioned in the schedule, then I will not leave them. So this is the most important thing, because as soon as they took lunch, I know they will go to sleep. Then I manage everything according to that. And the main important thing I feel is positive affirmations works. As soon as they wake up, I go to them, hug both of them individually for at least 5 minutes each, then read them positive affirmations, tell them that mama used to go, mama need to work, mama. Now my boy know this is my phone, this is my laptop. As soon as the clock takes 10 a.m., he comes to me and give me my phone, mama, mama, mama. And he knows ki 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. is mama's time to work only. This is the change we need in our life with twins. And also we like Hina said, single child is easy to handle, but aligning both the twins according to time and schedule is important, and that is the main thing.
Absolutely. That's amazing to hear. Just how your child has also adapted and has learned that, okay, this is mama's fixed time. Let me not disturb her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
they also know they matlab, these twins are only 18 months now, and they know Saturday, Sunday is weekend. They know Sunday mama will take us for an outing.
Amazing. Super. So we have 15 minutes to go. What I'm going to do is just one last round of questions to the panelists before, we address the bigger questions that are coming in. So Kanchan, I'm very interested to know, we've heard the home side of it, right? But the work side of it, how did you manage your colleagues, your reporter, the managers that you would report to? How did you sort of communicate the importance of, your priority right now is the babies? So what were the practical strategies that helped you stay on top of work as well at this point?
It's an interesting question, and I'm reflecting back. Um, I think there were a few things that helped. I think one, initially, because I made the choice to work part-time, it was very clear to everyone around that, of course, there are boundaries, right? And if I'm taking away 50% of what I should get paid, I'm not going to work 100% either. So I think some of that got communicated in the choice that I made of working part-time for a couple of years. But even after that, I think I have actually been quite explicit in my choices. And my big choices were, I don't want to be on work that involves a lot of travel, for example, right? And I don't want to be on work that involves working US hours, for example. So I made a few choices like that, and the list was short. Huh? By the way, you can't have a very long list, because then, then you're saying no to stuff which beyond a point you do want to sustain your career as well. So I had a short list of a couple of things that were non-negotiables to me, and actually I was quite open in communicating those. I think you have to be somewhat at a stage in your career where people want you around, because because you've done well, I think, up until that point. and you continue to do well in the things that you're doing, I think it's important to be in that, I would say, slightly strong position in your career. Otherwise, I think these choices become much harder to make. But if you are in that position, I felt like I could make some of these choices, and it didn't impact at least the trajectory of my career at that time. Of course, I went slow, but that was a conscious choice. When you choose to work half time, of course, you're going to also progress at half the
Right.
speed. So I think outside of that, I didn't feel like it made any significant difference to the trajectory, because I made a short list of non-negotiables and I stuck to that, but I communicated those very openly and very clearly, and that's how it was. So that's what I feel. I mean, I feel like it's important to ask for what you need. It's important to be clear, but it's also important to have a contained list of asks, not a very long list of asks, because and do it in the context of the job that you're in, right? I mean, it's Pankhuri, as an actor, you will not say, okay, I mean, there's a set of things that you can't say no to, right? Because that just goes with the territory. So I think as long as you're realistic and open about communicating what you need, I feel it works. But of course, be in a strong position, because I mean, and look, the choice that I made very consciously to lay it out is to say no to a set of things. But whatever I took on, whatever I did, that had to have my 100%. So that's not a choice, right? If I've signed up to something, if I'm doing something, that then whatever it takes, and there will be days when I felt I've compromised my babies, but then those are choices that you have to make on a day-to-day basis. But there were a set of things that I said no to, but then I would not do them at all.
So when you say part-time, did you, like you said, till 12 p.m. was your time. So did you do like a time frame, or did you have like a few days to yourself and you worked?
I didn't do either. The way consulting works is I'm at a stage in my career where I would have done 2 or 3 projects in parallel. I did one.
Okay, so you wrap up
And then I
projects.
did what that one entailed, because look, at the end of the day, you sign up to something, you have a delivery to the client, you have to make sure that happens. You just sign up to less. That's the choice that I made. Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
And you have to be
Super.
flexible about it. Yeah. I mean, at least I didn't find that this every Friday I'm not going to come doesn't work. If there is a meeting, you need to turn up.
Right, of course. Ruchika, what advice would you give to other men contemplating starting their own venture post, the entire journey of motherhood?
So I think two things. That one is, whatever choice you make, it's never going to be easy, right? I mean, even if you decide to stay at home and just take care of the kids, that is also not easy. So whatever you choose consciously. Make a choice that works in your context, that makes you happy, and then stick to that. Don't try to be perfect. And if you are taking chances, that's okay. It's all an experiment. If it does not work out, I'm sure you'll figure a way out. So that's good. So that's regarding career. I think personally also, don't feel that after twins your life is over. Actually, I have managed to learn a lot of things after twins. So I learned driving after twins because I wanted to be able to take them around independently. I learned swimming because I wanted them to learn swimming. I started doing yoga. Then I became good at yoga. So I transitioned to aerial arts. Um, you know, I wanted them to learn hula hoop. So first I learned hula hooping. So there are a set of things which I wanted them to learn, and I integrated it into my life, and I am finding joy out of it. I'm probably doing all of these activities more than them. So it's not the end. You have to find things that probably both of you can do together, so that while you are getting your pleasure of your own me time, the kids are also very much a part of it, and they learn by seeing you. Yeah, so yeah.
Absolutely. Super. I think, super insightful inputs from all of you on the panel. I'm now going to be, giving you all the questions that have come in from a few of our attendees. One very interesting that I'm also, very keen to learn about. So a few of us have taken a break longer than a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3, right? Now, how do you sort of not even show this on your resume, right? How do you have this conversation with your future interviewer? How why was your break, this long? And while making sure it doesn't just come across as, I was busy with motherhood, right? So how do you sort of convey something like that to a future employer? This is
Kanchan,
this is
do you want
opening the floor to all of you. I think
I think as
giving
an actor, like
yeah.
I don't have the interview to sit for, but there's a lot of stigma attached to, first getting married, then becoming a mother, and then, getting the roles that you want to do. So I think, but yeah, I think slowly people are progressing in the way that I think such explanations shouldn't be necessary. Where women do not need to shouldn't be in a position where they have to choose just because they've delivered, they've had kids, and something like that. So I think that's something that I hope is not something that stops you, but I still feel it is, because a lot of people, because everything's out there, they know that you've just now you're suitable for a certain kind of role, etc. They obviously wouldn't say it to the face or whatever, but I think there's still that stigma. But then there are a lot of people who you don't really have to even discuss these things with. They can just, like, you just know that that platform is open, etc. But yeah, I don't know how it works in corporate. I've been in the corporate before, but like I'm completely
I
out
can
of it.
comment on that maybe a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's I my own experiences. I think it's okay. I think in general, corporate India is trying to get women back to work, so I don't think it's a stigma as such. I think what becomes a challenge is in the, let's say, 5 years that you've been out. People who started with you, who were at the same stage of the career with you 5 years back, have moved on, and they are, they may be your bosses today, they may be your managers. And I think that what people hesitate about is, will you be okay with that? So I think it's not about explaining the absence, it's more about explaining what you're willing to do today. And if you're willing to put in, the work and the hours and whatever it is that it takes today, and not have an ego about the fact that someone who was with you is now, almost like your, maybe your manager or whatever it is, I think then it's okay. But I think as a woman going back after, or anyone going back after a long break, I think you have to be willing to make compromises and be willing to explain to people that I'm okay with this, right? I'm okay to put this in now. And I think if you do that proactively, it's okay. I don't think it's a stigma. I think it's more people worrying about how you are going to fit into that mold now.
That's super. That's great to hear. I'm at a stage where I'm still figuring out what to do next. So I think this input, these inputs really help. Um, I'm just opening up the floor to everyone on call.